Abhishek, we are live.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all here, even though virtually. But I would say that it's actually a very important day for all of us for the growth of the entire campus. So why have we gathered here today? It's just to know how we can be better allies to the LGBTQIA plus community to commemorate the International Month of Pride, which happens to be in June 21. And we are very honored to have Professor Arun Saha, who is the acting VC of BITS Pilani University. And it would be a pleasure to welcome him to say a few words before we go ahead with the panel discussion. Professor, please go ahead.
Good evening to all of you. It is really a pleasure for me to receive this invitation to be part of this program and address. I think it is a great step the BITSAA and Anchor have taken, being part of BITS Pilani's connection family, I'll say, because BITSAA is always the family member of the BITS Pilani. I think I'm very happy that they have taken a topic which is very, very important in today's situation. Because you know, in India also what happened when the recognition or the power to these people were demanded, but ultimately it has been recognized, but still the general people are not giving that recognition which is required. You see, by law, we can make any rights, but if the people are not accepting that, it is a very, very problem. So this initiative is a very, very important toward that path to make people aware of it, their rights to achieve and demand and get what any other people get it. It is nothing wrong. Like any other things, it is as normal. So I'm very, very thankful to BITSAA and Anchor to take these initiatives. I'm sure that you will be able to take it further among the various campuses to make awareness among the students who are supposed to make it much more acceptability. So I'm really happy to that initiative, and I'm very happy that after taking charge only 7 days before, I have got first opportunity to attend this subject, a panel discussion, where it is a very, very important for their rights, their demands, and I'm sure this will take to a long achievement by initiatives taken by BITSAA and Anchor for that. And please, my request, you have to work not in only a panel discussion. You need to work out a process by which their rights are accepted and recognized. Whatever support is required, definitely leadership team will be happy to do that one. I'll not take any more time. I wish the panel discussion will lead to great success for further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Saha. It means so much. I think that we are extremely proud students and alumni to see that, from the very top leadership, there is firm commitment to this. So I think that you are creating future CEOs, startup founders, the future of the country and the world. And we have much more hope with maybe leaders like you who would give this importance, as much importance as it deserves. So thank you for normalizing the conversation. Okay,
Welcome.
so after Professor Saha, it's very difficult to go after him, but let me attempt to introduce our wonderful panel. We've got quite a diverse crowd. So amongst the 6 people, let me just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Abhishek Ghosh. My pronouns are he, him, and I am from the 2012 batch of the Pilani campus. And then let me go just round the table. First, I would introduce 3 people from Anchor, the gender and sexuality cell at BITS Pilani University. First, we have Samyukta. Her pronouns are she, her. She identifies as queer. She's from the Goa campus, and her batch, she's from the 2012 batch. Next, we have Naman. His pronouns are he, him. He is an ally, and he is also from the Pilani campus batch of 2017. Then we have Ani. Pronouns are she, they, from the Pilani campus batch of 2019. So those were members of Anchor, and honestly, Anchor has come a very, very long way. I think since the first few days that we were on campus, and so congratulations on that. Next, we have 2 members from BITSAA International. So first we have Roshni. Pronouns are she, her, and she is an ally from the Pilani campus batch of 2013. And finally, we have Pramila. Her pronouns are she, her. She's also an ally, member of the Hyderabad campus batch of 2011. So again, a very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for actually being courageous enough to speak up for something that and actually take tangible action on this, on actually how to become a great ally. So before we jump into the discussion, I think I'd just like to structure our conversation today. We're going to spend the next maybe 50 minutes talking about 3 main subjects, right? So first, we're going to discuss what does it mean to be an ally. Second, we're going to talk about how you can actually respond to anti-LGBTQIA plus behavior or bullying or any sort of discrimination. And the third, we're going to actually share resources and tell you how do you operationalize this? How do you make this something that we just don't talk on this panel today, but something that you will actually exercise in your everyday life? Right, so I think that if everyone's ready, shall we start our discussion? Okay,
Sure.
great. All right, so let me introduce the first part, right? So what does it mean to be an ally? I know that a few people might not be familiar with what an ally means. So if we were to really break it down, an ally is someone who really supports equality and the basic human rights of the community, of the LGBTQIA+ community, of the queer community. So maybe to start off this discussion, I'd like to invite Samyukta. Samyukta, we'd love to hear from you. What does it mean to be an ally for you?
So I think really the main thing is, yeah, as you said, that you really genuinely believe that to be an ally to the LGBTQ community, you really truly believe that everybody is exactly equal. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation, preference, gender identity is, but you are a human being who's, you should be treated with respect, the same respect that is required. You have to treat every human being with the same respect, I feel. But also making sure that you are creating a welcoming, safe space for the people around you. Like not outing somebody, certain rules or certain etiquette you follow. Making sure that if you know somebody who happens to be queer, you are not saying anything or you're not doing anything that would make them uncomfortable or allowing anything to be done around you that might make them uncomfortable. Helping them out. Yeah, that's basically.
Understood. Got it. So I think what I'm getting from you, Samyukta, is that maybe you don't want people to feel like an only For example, if you want to use rainbow stickers, everyone uses rainbow stickers. Or just like on this panel, right? I mean, we've all changed our names to highlight our pronouns so that irrespective of how you personally identify, there are so many people who kind of are standing up for you that you don't feel awkward. And maybe
Yeah.
even putting up posters. I think you had
Strength in
discussed
numbers. Yeah, in Anchor, at some point in time during our, we used to put up posters anonymously.
Yeah.
So some of us, when we had to do it, it was not just me, was some of us had to do it. Some of us were not comfortable because we didn't want to come out at that time. So we had some allies at that time who actually took, they put the messaging, they associated their name with it because they were fine with that. So that was really useful. That was really helpful to actually get more people to contact us.
That's super cool. I totally, get that. I think I heard about people putting up posters in the dead of the night because they didn't want to be seen. And now you put it up, like proudly, like in the afternoon. And nobody really asks you what is your, identity anymore. So I think that is a great kind of evolution. So maybe Ani, let's go to you. Do you think that this is like a performative thing, being an ally, or how do you kind of, stay an ally all the time?
Well, I think the main thing that you need to realize for being an ally is that it's not about knowing everything. It's not about being politically correct or being right. Mainly, it is about progress and it is about inclusivity. And I think above all else, it's just about having a sense of compassion and respect for the experience of the person sitting in front of you. So really, all you need to do to be an ally is be willing to listen. And in that sense, one has to be an ally 24/7. You don't just get to be an ally only in June or only when your queer friends are around. You do need to defend the community at all times. That means using the correct pronouns for someone even when they're not in the room. That means not using slurs and not allowing other people to use slurs. That means standing up for your queer friends even when they're not there. Or even if you don't have queer friends, still standing up for the community. So in that sense, you don't want allyship to be something that is performative or something that is charity. It is your obligation to do as just a human sharing the planet with someone else.
Wonderfully put, Ani. I think we totally get that. It's not a performance, really. And maybe I'd move to Pramila. As an ally yourself, what do you think? What is your feeling when I don't know, somebody trusts you enough to tell you their deepest, darkest secret? Maybe have you ever faced a situation like that?
I first would definitely feel very, very grateful that somebody is, trusting me enough to share their identity. And I understand that it must take a lot of courage to do that. I think that is the acknowledgement. And being an ally, I think I have a long way to go. But when I started, the first lesson that I learned was that it is not about it is not about me that I am being a part of this movement. I have to be in the background to support the community, and I'm not here to fight the fight for the community, but I'm here to support and let the voices be heard. And I think that's the most valuable lesson I have heard when I watched different interviews or when I read articles on this topic. And so much that the intention might be right, that as an ally you might be very enthusiastic in going out and fighting, and you might really feel for the cause, but it is about the voices of the LGBTQI plus community to be heard, and wherever they need, be there to support. And I think that would be the best thing an ally can do.
Thank you for that. Let's go back to Ani. So there's this one point on intersectionality. Like everyone hears this word thrown around a lot, It is a complex word. So what is your take on that?
Well, I think the main thing you need to understand as an ally or as somebody who's not really familiar with the community is that the LGBT community is not a single homogenous group. So it can't be approached as a monolith in that way. You can't say that every gay person has a single experience, or every lesbian person or trans person, or even an unlabeled person, that they'll have a similar experience. People have various other layers of discrimination or hardships that they may face, that may be, queer people who are disabled, queer people who have a degree of caste privilege, or a degree of economic disability, that sort of thing. So that's something that you need to address. So I would say, when someone comes out to you, be willing to listen, be willing to communicate, be willing to hear their story without any bias of your own. And then once you've done that, then you can understand how you can be the best ally for them and how you can help them the most.
Got it. It's not an us versus them.
Yeah,
Naman,
it's not
why don't you
us
go
with
ahead?
them.
Yeah. Great, great.
Like Ani said, that you need to be alive 24/7. At the same time, it's important to realize your privilege, that you need to use your privilege to benefit the community, not your ego. While as an ally, sometimes people feel that they need to defend LGBTQ peers whenever they are being attacked. So we need to make sure that we do not overshadow or occupy a queer person's right to speak up for themselves. It's not okay to constantly prove that you are an ally as a way of getting accepted by the community. Another point, some people feel that they will not support such things because they will make mistakes and they'll be called out. Allyship is actually more about the mistakes than the things you do right. It's about how you deal with those mistakes and move forward. So it's important to, if you also miss a mistake, then just acknowledge that and make sure you don't repeat it. So that is one important part of being an ally.
Very interesting, Naman. Very interesting. So I think it's about listening. I think what I heard from others, it's about being humble and also not thinking that you're like a superhero. You're not a superhero in a game, because it's not a performance. It's not temporary. It's something you have to do permanently. So yeah, and you have to seed space. And I think what Ani also really brought up very well is that often it's called an alphabet soup, and derogatory, like in a derogatory manner. But honestly, it means that there are, even within the community, there is a lot of difference on the basis of caste, gender, identity, gender expression, and maybe the society that you come from. So even for people within the community, even for people who identify as queer on this panel, even they would need to seed space sometimes. Maybe a cis, a cis male who identifies as queer has to seed space to maybe someone who identifies as trans, because they don't get as much representation. So yeah, I think some very good points brought in by you all. And that kind of segues into like an interesting, I think, second point very quickly. What are the policies on campus that you can really, is there any campus experience that you all can share where you've actually been at a very important moment for someone who identifies as queer? Maybe anybody can go, but yeah, maybe Roshni, we'll have you.
So I mean, back in college, I wasn't aware about the community, and I was very naive. But then one of my friends came out to me, and pretty honest, I was actually shocked. But then I noticed the kind of abandonment he's facing in the college, when he told his bingies or maybe other friends. I decided that I wanted to be an ally, because I want to help my friends come out of it clearly, communicate clearly, and be feel safe. I mean, they should feel safe in the campus. Most of the people, they are not coming out because they do not feel safe, and they fear about being judged. So I think that was the first moment when I realized. And the first step which I took was to, like Naman said, you need to speak up, but you need to make sure you are not speaking over them. So speaking up is good, but not speaking over them is also important. So the most important thing which I did was, I read about it, I discussed with him, and I exchanged, because I am at the position where I have the privilege. So I need to understand that I have a privilege. I can never understand what he is going through. So I should be there for him always to, understand him. And definitely it's a difficult place for him. So yeah.
Wow. No, this actually reminds me, of this one incident. We had a play in our first year, and every character was queer. And I think one of the members, he had to literally drop out of the play because he was being bullied by his batchmate, by his beanies so much. They almost threatened him, by saying that we'll call your parents and like just tell them that this is who you are and they should forget about marriage. And it literally ruined our play to an extent. I mean, it was 1 month before Oasis, so that really hits deep. And I can almost visualize how I mean, a similar experience happened to me where an ally just like you, when I spoke to her, she is my best friend. She just hugged me, right? And she said, I don't care what the world does, but I will stand there right in front and defend you to death. I am there for you. And I think that hug, the expression that you said, right, that you read up and you educated yourself and you were just showing compassion. You don't have to have a PhD in all of this. I mean, everyone knows this is very new for some people. So I think that's beautifully put. Next, I think let's move on to Naman's experience, and maybe why don't you talk about something that's quite strange, but maybe coming out as an ally. What does that mean?
Yes, so this is something even I have personally experienced, and I know people who are vocal about the issues usually face. So, a part of being an ally is meaning you share important resources, important articles, say over WhatsApp, over Instagram. But when you do so, some people associate you to be the part of the community. They think that okay, you are also gay, you are also queer. So this is something that stops many people who would like to be alive, but they don't do so. So I would like to say that don't let these things stop you, because at the end, like, what's the insecurity? If you're not queer, and if getting associated as queer makes you uncomfortable, that means you're not entirely supportive of the cause at all. And let's say if you are a closet queer and someone directly asks you, so first of all, no one should even ask directly, okay, hey, are you gay? It's none of your business. And if someone really wants to know, there's a way of properly asking it. Like, hey, are you comfortable sharing identity with me? And that is true also when you are a close friend of the person being asked. And to the person who receives such a question, say directly or in a other way, you are not bound to reply or tell. It's completely your choice, and it's really not a place. It's not a place of anyone to demand it from you. So I'll say if you are being an ally, don't worry about such things because there is nothing to worry about.
Wow, that's really excellent, Naman. Again, I mean, I'm getting all these images. I mean, there's a lot of imagery I think associated with it. So yeah, I can almost imagine how this can be a topic of gossip, in the mess, or maybe you're just like in one of the radies, and you just want to talk ill about someone, and this is a great way to kind of tarnish someone's reputation because they're associated with shame and and of course it's a two-way street. I mean, people who are making fun, the person who is getting affected by it, it's just a very toxic kind of environment, and we certainly don't want to be. I think we deal with enough on campus. We don't need additional ways of pulling each other down. So I think that things have changed, but there is still some way to go. So thank you for bringing that up. Actually, I mean, if you're an actual ally, it shouldn't matter if somebody even accused you of being that. You would just say, "So what?" Does it bother you? Why does it bother you? Yeah, I love that. Quite sassy. So yeah, I think So there's this one thing, right? I mean, I've also been confused about this. I'm sure people on the panel also would like to know that there is a nuance, right? Most of the queer literature, movies are hyper focused on coming out, and coming out might not be easy for everyone because there are financial implications. People might get thrown out of their homes. They might physically not be safe. And coming out about your sexuality is very different from coming out about your gender identity, possibly. So while you really do not ask someone about their sexuality, what is the logic of asking maybe someone their pronouns? And Ani, I think that if you would like to take this up, that would be great.
Yeah, I think in that sense, one thing to remember is that someone's sexuality is, fundamentally speaking, none of your business. It's really no one's business except the person themselves and the person who they're with, in a relationship with, or whatever. In that sense, gender is slightly different because to a large extent, gender is about relation to other people as well, and about how you wish to be referred to by other people, how you want other people to be perceiving you. So in that sense, when you're asking about someone's pronouns, right, then there is a way to do that, and it is very different than asking someone about their sexuality. So even asking about someone's gender identity, and that in itself can be a very personal question, and unless you're very, very close, it's something that I would suggest you avoid. But asking someone's name, asking how they would like to be referred to, is definitely something that you should do in general, not just in case of someone who has an ambiguous gender presentation. So I think we have a really good example of this in the Anchor guide that we've put out, which is a gender-bred person. So it kind of shows the difference between what is gender expression, what is gender identity, and what is biological sex. So I think those differences for an ally are something that's really important for you to understand and sort of internalize that and realize that you can ask about pronouns, but the other two are something that is really something personal and you shouldn't bring up unless they want to.
That's extremely interesting. I mean, we learn every day, honestly. And I'm not afraid to say that I've studied about this for many years, but I learned so much from you, Ani, honestly, from, even in on our informal chat. And that just goes to show that, I love ceding this space to you, for you to tell me your lived experience. Nothing beats that. No amount of Google search. So thank you for being brave and for talking from very personal experience. Okay, so I think that concludes the first part of what we wanted to speak about, who is an ally. And that kind of segues into something that is a little, it's more painful for some, which is, what is discriminatory behavior, right? Have we seen it? And how do we act? And this is something that will prove your allyship through action. So I'd first like to invite maybe anyone on the panel to make it very personal. Tell us an actual incident that you thought was discriminatory. Maybe very short, we don't want too many details, but maybe just paint a picture for us. Was it in an office setting? Was it in a bar? Was it in a team outing? Where did you see discrimination?
I'd like to share a story. So this is something in the last couple of weeks, I heard it from a friend, and it happened in his workplace. And it's a very simple situation. They were having a few drinks, and because my friend chose a particular drink, the manager said that, oh, and there goes your manhood, or you're not man enough because you're drinking a certain a kind of alcohol. And
let's call it a pink drink.
Yeah, so it was a particular kind of drink which is I think lesser percentage of alcohol or whatever. So there, I think ridiculous. When told I and when my friend told me about it, he is a straight person, and I mean, where he took offense and he's like, oh, I'm never drinking this kind of alcohol in a public setting ever again. So that action, I mean, that's how he reacted. But the same team, the same group could have had people, let's say, from the LGBTQI plus community or somebody who didn't come out yet. And just saying that it makes you uncomfortable or makes you feel that, oh, if I am not being man enough, I will not be accepted, or it is somewhat inferior. I think tiny things like this is a very small instance. I'm sure there would be more direct attacks that the community faces, but in a work setting, I think it is important for people to be extremely conscious of what they say and how it might be perceived. Because I personally know that a sexist comment is going to affect my confidence, and it has affected earlier. And I would think it would be very similar to somebody from the community when they hear comments like this.
Got it. No, I mean that's the perfect example for microaggression, and these microaggressions, they add up. And I'm sure that somebody who's told that the way they speak, the way they kind of naturally use their hands, if you're told that, imagine that this is something that you should be ashamed of, and someone's already ashamed of it, of their identity, then they would just it makes homophobes off people in the community. I mean, it's an internalized homophobia. And honestly, it's not cool. It's 2021. We've dealt with the pandemic. I don't think we need to be like mean to each other as well. So I mean, I'd like to invite maybe Naman. So let's say that you were put in this situation, right? So what are the different steps that we can really take? Some immediate, some that we can, let's say, triage our reaction. How would you deal with it? Let's put you in this bar in front of the manager.
So this is very, very important because even I have been in situations when I, correct my friend or a batchmate who has made a casual homophobic comment. They instead turn on to me, "Ki, why are you being affected so much? It's just a joke." But people should understand words do hurt sometimes. Not sometimes, words do hurt. So it's not something you can just say and get away by saying it was a joke. And as an ally, silence is not a neutral position to take. No action is an action. If an incident is overlooked or it is not addressed, it can be perceived as an implicit acceptance of discrimination. It can be seen as an approval of the incident completely. So, like, we should say something corrective when we came across such incident, even though the person who was being discriminated against, whether they're present or not, we should say something corrective. It can be very simple, saying that language is acceptable. It sends out that message that this homophobia or the transphobia is not accepted, and we won't tolerate that. So and also there's a very funny way, like, let's say someone made some homophobic joke. You should ask them, could you please explain that to me? At most of the situation, it shuts the person up. That is one interesting way you can take up this.
Got it. Thanks, Naman, for that. But let's move on maybe to Samyukta. This may work for, let's say, colleagues or people at your own level, but let's be practical, right? I mean, in a work environment, it is hierarchical. There might be people in positions of power. There might be people writing your recommendation letters. So, Samyukta, we'd love to hear from you that if you can't take this immediate stance, if you can't, let's say, confront someone publicly, then what would you do?
So I think what happens a lot of times in group settings is there's some sort of like a mob mentality that comes up. There's a certain joke or something going on. Everybody feels like they have to kind of give into peer pressure and, go with the flow. Don't rock the boat. Don't say anything because you might be seen as lame or whatever. But if you were to speak to them personally, if you were to individually talk to them, they are quite probably supportive of you, and if you are queer or of the queer community, they don't really feel that. So I would say if something like this has happened already, talk to people. I would talk to people individually and say that, hey, the next time it happens, could you please reverse the mob mentality? Let's have a group atmosphere of, yeah, we don't do that here. We don't accept these things here, and like basically connect individually, and get everybody to kind of speak up together.
Correct. So Naman is going to be like the aggressive person. Let's do it now. I will call you out now. Samyukta is going to be, okay, let's see where this person's coming from and maybe get more support and explain it to them. But, okay, explain behind closed doors. But I think, Ani, is there a third possibility? Like, could you do something immediately that is powerful, but not something that offends, the senior?
I think Samyukta brought up a really important point of mob mentality, essentially. And I think one of the most important things you can do is break that. And so if someone does tell a joke, for starters, don't laugh, don't give an affirming response to it. Sometimes just falling silent, I believe, can really help with that situation. And it really does make an impact, showing that you don't approve of what they're saying. And like Samyukta said, again, it's not always possible to call out right then and there. But if you can, it's always best to stop and say, that's not something that's a good thing to say. Right. And make sure you're not doing it from a place of superiority, right? Because this is not about canceling people. This is not about being politically correct. It is about making a safer environment for your friends, and it is about helping everyone progress. So I think that's an important point to keep in mind when dealing with homophobic comments.
Thank you, Ani. I think that's a very good point. This again, I can visualize this very well. That several conversations in office where usually I'm very chirpy. I know that I'm really trying to like not, I always I'm speaking a lot, speaking too much maybe. But sometimes if there is something offensive, you just fall quiet and everybody looks at you and says, are you okay? Why aren't you speaking? And I'm like, I literally have no thoughts on this. Because I was scared, and it is fine for allies, just like Ani said, it is okay for you to not be prepared to have that conversation immediately. But it is a powerful sign of protest. I don't find what you say funny, and I'm happy to explain it to you later. That is quite powerful. Naman, maybe let's go to you and just talk about. So, what can you do in the longer term? This is a very immediate thing. Maybe it's a week's kind of worth of effort. But if the company had to change its policy, if you really had to not ensure that this doesn't happen again, that you're not making someone so uncomfortable that they are unable to even function without feeling that they're being spied on or being attacked. What is the long-term kind of policy? What can an ally do to kind of go and what should an ally do? Like, what can they ask someone who is possibly offended? How can they support them?
For the company perspective, not entirely sure, but I know that there does exist anti-LGBTQ behavior policies. You can directly reach out to your HR, you can tell the incident to them, and since the policies are in place, they have to take an action. You can even file a lawsuit, and this is something you can do with the say company level. In the institution also, we have anti-bullying policies. We do have the ICC, which covers all the genders, the harassment that occurs irrespective of the gender. So that is what we can approach ICC in the institution level.
Okay, got it. That is very interesting. Sorry, Pramila, you want to comment?
Yes, I'd like to add just one point to this. I am completely, with the point that they might be coming from a place of ignorance. It's not about canceling them. It's about learning. And I think we have to be empathetic there. But in addition to that, at least in a work setting, if somebody from a place of power or anybody for that matter, if sometimes maybe not everybody is comfortable being confrontational, and it is okay to talk to them privately and explain this to them. But after we do that, I think it is important for them to publicly acknowledge that, hey, I was wrong the last time I spoke, and maybe even apologize for that behavior. And this sets an example that it is not okay for somebody to behave like this, and this is the right. And also it is okay to apologize later when a person in power does something like this. I think it is very powerful, and it says a lot. It sets a good example for the rest of for the workplace, and it makes the workplace a much safer place. That, hey, I can call out this person and I can talk to people in private or in in front of everybody else, and they will acknowledge their mistakes, and nobody is judging anyone here. So yeah,
I think Roshni also wants to add something. I know this is a tough topic, so let's have everyone speak on it. Yeah, Roshni, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, so I think from policies perspective and from HR perspective, what they can do is during the onboarding, like they introduce us to the women's cell, and the actions which can be taken if like posh community is there, right? If somebody is harassing someone, then what actions can be taken. Similarly, they should in the DNI community, they should also introduce about what policies they have for the LGBTQ community, and they can also have the periodic refresher trainings to the people, so that everyone in the organization is aware and follow certain guidelines and respect everyone's space. So this can be done during onboarding time. This will make sure if new person is joining the company and he belongs to the queer community, then he will also kind of feel he's joining a safe place, and the company appreciates and values his rights.
Got it. So yeah, I mean it's a very fine balance between trying to see where the person is coming from and giving them an opportunity to kind of learn, and just giving them the benefit of doubt. I think that's where Pramila and Roshni are coming in from. But if they don't listen, even after that, then I think you have to go in for punitive action. And this really reminds me of Gaurav Pramanik, who is no longer with us, unfortunately. He passed away earlier this year, but he was a very brave soul. So I think he was in a certain organization, and he actually called out the HR because he had messaged the HR several times, and the HR was homophobic to him. And this was an HR who was responsible for DNI. So Ani and Samyukta, if you had any points on how maybe would you want to tap into visible allies? Like if you see and if you know that someone has stood up for LGBTQIA plus rights in a certain organization, would you kind of feel comfortable to first go to them and then let them be the face of this corrective action or of this process of learning? Would you be comfortable with that? And what's important here, I think what I heard from Pramila and from Roshni is that don't scare people. It's not cancel culture. Everyone is learning. Honestly, we could be making mistakes on this very recording today, and Gen Z might cringe at what we said today because standards change, norms change. Should all be open to learning. I think that's what I'm taking away from you. But without saying any more, I think Samyukta and Ani, would you be comfortable going to an ally and let them be the face of this?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you, for example, if one is a closeted queer person, and that in your office there is this person who's very vocal, who's done so many things for the community, I would definitely feel much more comfortable going to them than to an HR who is like a question mark here, because I know they have a track record of standing up for us. Yeah,
that's a super important point.
Yeah,
it's not only an HR and organizational behavior topic. It's a topic for everyone. It's a topic for leaders. I remember very shortly that we had a lecture where a CEO had come and told us that what is the one subject that you study that everyone takes for granted, and it's actually the most important subject. It's actually HR and recruiting, because I mean it's the people in so many companies, there are no assets. People are the assets. So if you're not taking care of your people, and if you think HR is only limited to like 5 people in the HR department, it's a mistake. So thank you for bringing that point up. I'll very quickly go to Ani if you have anything else to add. Otherwise, we can like move to the last segment, because we the last segment is 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think we sort of inadvertently landed on literally just the crux of what the LGBT community is supposed to be, right? It is a system of support. So I think that's why so that point that you brought up was really important, that if there is someone who already supports the community, it can be so much easier to open up to them, or it can be so much easier to speak to them without having to mince your words, or without having to worry about how am I going to be perceived, or in extreme situations, am I going to lose my job, or am I going to get in trouble? So yeah, I think that's really important, and I think that's basically the entire point of the LGBT community as it exists today, to be a system of support for each other.
A chosen family.
Yeah, exactly.
Family. Thank you, Ani. I can see Naman raising his hand. I know that we are a little out of time, but yeah, Naman, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the point I said in the beginning of the session, that as an ally, you need to support them, not fight over their voice. So even in intervening any anti-behavior, you should also ask the person being discriminated against what would they like to do in the situation. Would they want to, be called out at that environment, or would they want to talk to the person later on? We need to take into that consideration what if the person is not comfortable, even though they are being discriminated, they don't want to take this further. They just don't want, they want to end it there itself. So we need to even take that perspective into account when we are dealing with anti-behavior at some specific situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is again, it's reiterating, don't take the cape and become like a super person, not Superman. You don't have to become a super person. You're not a hero. You're just there to kind of support the community. Great. I think that's a great segue to our last segment. I know we have 13 minutes left. And again, I'd like to acknowledge that even on this chat today, we've had very senior faculty members come in and show their support. So we know that we can go to like senior faculty members and they will hear us and be serious about it, and that means a lot. Unfortunately, I mean, organizations can be quite. I mean, sometimes it is important for a public face of someone who can take decisions to actually make a difference. So again, we'd like to really thank the platform and for senior faculty members to be a part of our conversation today. Okay, so let's move on to the last segment very quickly. And I'd like to invite Roshni. How did you decide to become an ally? What did it take for you to get into, I don't know, to take this up?
Yeah, so like I said, there were a few people who introduced me to the community, and I realized that I have some unconscious biases in me. And I think that was the first step, that I need to eradicate those. And first of all, I need to acknowledge that I have biases. And as soon as I realized that, I kind of wanted to be part of allyship, and I wanted to be an ally. And ally is not just a noun, it's a verb as well, right? So if you want to be an ally, action has to be taken. You just can't say I am an ally, but you're not supporting the community, and you're not standing up for them. So I think being an ally is a huge responsibility on its own. And if you are being an ally, then you should be knowledgeable enough, because some people who want to be an ally, they might come to you and they might ask you, the questions and the things which you should be aware of. So you must educate yourself. You should definitely take action. And first of all, you should just being before ally also, you should eradicate the biases which you have. So yeah.
Thank you, Roshni. I think this reminds me of pink washing. I mean, it's it's a very large topic, but actually it's worse if you pretend to be somebody and you actually do more harm, because it's just like, you know, saying that, oh, I'm a psychologist to your friends. And I think we had this entire time when everyone was like, my DMs are open, come and talk to me. But when you are not, you know, you aren't equipped, you haven't taken out the time and effort to be consistently with someone, and if they come out with their deepest, darkest secrets to you, you're actually going to do so much like harm, and it's almost going to be impossible to undo that kind of damage that you, if you say something wrong to somebody, like blatantly wrong, not some, and it's important for you to like undo your own biases and do your homework. I think that that is important. Don't be scared. It's not like a PhD, you know, defense of dissertation, but you can't be blatantly wrong. Very interesting. So I'd like to quickly go on to Pramila. I think I mean, we had in our informal chat, you talked about being at Pride, right? I mean, when you were in the US. So could you talk about that? How was that experience?
That was actually the first time I got, you know, exposed to the community and how it is celebrated. And I'm so glad that was how I learned. I've seen a lot of colleagues, kids come in. It wasn't San Francisco. There was a Pride parade. It was huge. It was amazing. And the most wholesome thing I have seen was that colleagues' kids came in and they were playing. They were having cookies. They were running around, so they probably don't know a lot about, like, you know, what is going on, but they have this happy memory, or they relate to these memories, and they will feel that this is normal and we are celebrating these identities. We are celebrating, I know all of this is extremely normal when at a very young age, and I found that extremely wholesome. And uh, and that's the best thing allies can do. Like, you know, you are learning, bring your kids into it, like, you know, tell your friends. And it's not about looking at somebody else with pity, oh my god, you know, they have to go through so much. Yes, you have to be conscious about that, but celebrate it, you know. And yeah, I think that was my experience with Pride.
Well, thanks so much, Pramila. I think I mean, let's just have a conversation for 3 minutes, because we also want to give maybe some closing remarks, take a few questions in the last 5. And we'd like to open it up to, you know, Samyukta, Naman, Ani. What if someone comes in from a very, maybe a place where they're actually 23 years old, maybe, and they've never heard of these words, right? And they've never even read about it. So what kind of homework do they need to do? And, you know, what kind of questions are really offensive? Like, what would you really not like to answer? You would like them to do their own homework, but also maybe tell us, you know, that does intention matter? Is it okay for them to kind of, if they are curious, how should they be curious without offending maybe someone that they want to support? So first, I think Samyukta, if you'd like to go first.
So I think intention really matters here, definitely, because I think I can definitely tell when somebody is coming from a genuine place of like, I really don't know. And it's also important not to push them away, because they may not know what resources to go to. They may not, if you go on the internet and you Google the word homosexuality, you can get range of results, and you don't know what they're reading. So they don't know what they're reading. So if they come to you genuinely from a place of like, I really want to understand, and you're sensing that, it's important not to push them away. You share the resources, share your lived experience as a queer person. But of course, like questions like just think about what you might not ask somebody you don't know. You wouldn't ask about what sexual positions you use, whether their parents know, things like that. And also as an ally, another point I'd like to add, something that happened to me a lot was like invisibility, in the sense that I was so worried about coming out, but I like what happened was people didn't believe me when I did come out. So it's like, if you're an ally, somebody's telling you something, believe them, you know, even if they're joking, believe them. Jokes on them if they're joking, but like, yeah, basically as a queer person, I think it's good to share your lived experience if the person is genuine. as an ally, believe the person who's telling you something, believe their experience, and do homework on something you would not ask. That's what you think is too personal. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting, Samyukta. Um, why don't
Yes.
we go ahead to Naman, and then I can see that you, yeah, Naman, why don't you go ahead?
So being in the cis heteronormative society that we are, like Samyukta said, we need to believe when someone comes out to us. We don't say, "Are you sure? Maybe you are just confused. It's just a phase." It's very likely that the person has gone through a great deal of feelings before coming out to you. The reason they chose to come out to you because they felt comfortable and they had trust in you, or maybe they just wanted your two relationship to be better. So don't let them down by saying things like maybe you haven't found the right person. Yes. Uh, at the same time, the questions you should not ask is like, you are not into me, are you? I mean, the person, this is very self-centered question, considering the situation. And it shows that you're very uncomfortable with the knowledge that you seek. And even if it were this case that the person likes you, there is no imposition on you, just like there's no imposition on heterosexual cases. So don't respond in such a way. Uh, just one more point. At the same time, you shouldn't say like I knew it. What it shows is that you were, gossiping about them behind their back in a sneaky way, or you were judging them. You might be making such assumptions from based on stereotypes. So when a queer person hear this, they might feel that it was much safer to not tell you or stay in the closet itself. So so how you respond, uh, that creates the paths whether the person will, are likely to come out to others or whether they'll choose to stay in the closet for more time. So your reaction to coming out is very important.
Yeah, I think that's great. So I think what I'm taking away from Samyukta and Naman is that first of all, your existence is not invalidated if you don't choose to come out. I mean, you come out to yourself and you just inform others as and when it's convenient to you. Not even convenient, when it's possible. And yeah, I think that Naman's point on the fact that honestly coming out is also not a chance for you to pounce on them with questions. It's really a privilege that you're getting. So just listen and be there. Just sit by them. Sit on the same chair and say that I'm going to hug you. I'm going to be there for you. That's it. It's that simple. Ani, why don't you go ahead and tell us? Maybe there's a personal experience or something that you really find offensive or something that you really appreciate uh, about about the entire ally experience.
Well, for one thing, I think kind of going a bit back to your point about not pouncing with questions, I think as someone, if you're completely ignorant and if you do have a lot of questions about the community and you really are coming from a place of genuine ignorance and you want to learn more, for starters, I think it's important that you don't place the onus of educating you on your queer friend, right? It's completely okay to ask questions, but you do need to be mindful about what you're asking, how much you're asking. So there are a lot of online resources that you can access. There's the Trevor Project, there's the GLAAD project spelled with it's GLAAD. There's Human Rights Project. There are a lot of sort of resources for you to access information. Now, if you want to ask specifically about your friend's experience, be mindful of the fact that you're not asking something that you wouldn't ask your straight friend, right? Just because the person is queer doesn't mean that they're less human or that they're less of a private person. So, like Samyukta had brought up, asking about sexual positions is really not something you should do. Asking personal questions about their parents is not something you should do. Specifically for trans or gender non-conforming people feel the right to ask about their genitalia or ask about their progress in transition. Again, that is a very, very personal subject. That's not something you should broach without them offering up the information. So I think a general rule about those sort of personal questions is information about someone's identity is theirs to offer you, but not yours to demand from them. So sort of be mindful of that as an ally when you're trying to find out more.
Got it. Thank you so much, Ani. And we're almost like out of time. It's 8:30. So I'm going to quickly, I think open the floor to, we talk about coming out to colleagues or coming out to friends, but what if you have to come out to your parents and they would have a lot of questions? So is there a ready reckoner? Is there a guide that we can really refer to? I'm building it up for you. So yeah, why don't you take the stage, Anchor?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like we're talking about that there are various resources one can refer to understanding how to be an ally, how to intervene in the anti-LGBTQ behavior. So though there are many resources available on the net, finding one's comprehensive resource can be tough, and we understand that. So what Anchor team has done is, so we have been doing this for like working for this for like past 5 months, and so we have created a comprehensive guide to help you out. It is the guide to being an ally to LGBTQ youth. You can refer it to understand what the terminologies mean, what LGBTQ means for the starter. Why is it important to be an ally? How to react to someone coming out to you. There's a lot of more things that are mentioned in the guide. The link to the guide is mentioned in the YouTube description that is happening right now. Someone from the Anchor team will share it in the chat box also.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Naman. Honestly, I read that before coming here so that I don't sound stupid either. So I think it's a brilliant work. It's brilliant work, and congratulations. Big applause to the entire team. And we're just out of time. So I think before we close, why don't we'd like to invite if Professor S.K. Barai, the director of BITS Pilani campus, would like to say a few words. We'd like to invite him on stage.
We'll give a moment for Professor Barai
Yeah.
to join. We just shared the link with him.
Sure.
Naman, in the meantime, do you want to tell us about how the team worked on this guide and like how long it took and yeah.
Yeah, so the idea of guide came like last year itself when we wanted to, make one resource where people can refer, and we wanted it to remain in their device so that whenever they encounter such a situation, they can just refer the guide. Uh, so initially we did not think that it would be a 25-30 pages long guide. We thought that we'll share 45 articles, 45 pages. But then when we started working on it, we understood that, okay, we need to, make a proper flow of the guide. So if you check the guide, it's divided into three parts. First part talks about what LGBTQ means, what the terminologies are. Second part is tells you the ways how to support the community, how to react, and the third part basically is kind of a glossary. It's we have tried to put as many terms we could find, and because it's so we cannot put one say one word LGBTQ. It's a lot of identities. They're diverse. It's a spectrum. So we even queer people need to constantly revise up their vocabulary. So this is not something to four terms and LGBT and you're done with it. There's something you need to brush up from time to time. You need to know what recent events or news is happening around the community. So we have tried our best to combine as much as we could in one resource. We would be happy if people share it amongst their networks. It is not specific to BITS, it's to being an ally to LGBTQ youth.
Absolutely, Naman. Thank you. I mean, it's a living document. We hope everyone contributes to it. And in the next few editions, there could be more languages, more identities. I'm sure we're going to. It's a brilliant start. So congratulations to you. I think we have Professor S.K. Barai with us, and would like to really invite him to share his thoughts and address the gathering.
Thank you, Abhishek. First of all, I must congratulate Anchor and BITSAA for arranging this particular panel discussion. And I must, first of all, thank all the speakers, Ani, Samyukta, then our Naman, Premila. And if I'm missing out someone, I'm sorry, just forgive me. But I think all of you are the Roshni, correct? So that's and of course, Abhishek comparing the whole panel discussion. I was just listening all the things. Let me just tell you that I'm just sharing my thoughts very quickly. If you just look at the various colors of the candles, and if you burn it, they give the same flame. The color does not matter actually, because it has and that fire is most important. And if you symbolizes that as a life, as an individual identity, okay, that is where actually the BITS Pilani is going to play a very, very important role. This is a opportunity where the BITS Pilani can be a game changer. And that is where we want to particularly should take a clue from this point onwards. I was just listening to Pramila, and when she mentioned about that, the Pride meet and where the children were participating and everybody was there, I just recall myself that something of this kind of a panel discussion was happening where I was earlier working at IIT Kharagpur. And my children were very, very small. I took them personally because I wanted them to understand. I wanted them to learn. And that is where actually the role will come from the parent side. So how can we make the change? That is the fundamental question which we need to answer. Now, the fundamental change can happen at a very, very grassroots level. And that is where the BITS Pilani has been always possibly creating that culture among the students that we are the society change makers. We are the people who really bring the change into the society. And that is where I think as a community, we have to kind of bring in that awareness, what is to be an ally and what you need to be doing it. And I'm very happy that some places where it has been asked this question, that first and foremost thing is that I need to understand how do I confront my own personal prejudices. That is the most important thing. I need to really overcome myself. That does it come naturally to me that I whether the man and women I can identify in the same way? Can I take anybody as a normal? Can I do this one? And that is where, so there should not be any kind of a discrimination coming there. Do we have a courage to stand up for everyone? See, if you can stand up for any XYZ cause, why can't you just stand up for your brothers and sisters and who are the part of the community? And that is where actually I feel that the BITS Pilani will have to play a very important role. As an institution, I can say that much that we are already preparing a policy document. And this is something which we have sent it out for the legal waiting, because that once we make a policy document, it is on a gender and the sexuality part of it. And we want to make it absolutely aware from the day one when the student joins in the institute, maybe during the induction program or during the orientation program, if we have some part of an event where we make everybody aware about it, that you need to give a respect, you need to give the dignity of every individual without showing any kind of an element of a surprise. And that is where actually the people would possibly pick up. And the next stage would be, this learning would help, and we should encourage more and more people to, as a community, that tell your parents, because the parents are the next set of people who should not get surprised about it. They should start understanding about it, that the broad-mindedness, what we're talking about, the open-mindedness, that is something which we are talking about, that has to come into mind. It is not about fighting for the rights. It's about actually bringing the awareness, the way we inhale the oxygen. It should come very naturally. We should not be forcing ourselves to push to that level where we should ask or we should cover for somebody. And whatever I think some of the experiences which you shared, these are the experiences we also get in our society. But when I was asked about the event, and I said, I did not have a single second thought in my mind, because first and foremost thing, you need to be a human being. That is the most important part. And if you are not thinking yourself as a human being, I don't think so, then the education fails miserably. And possibly as an educationist, we will fail on our duties of imbibing those qualities in our students. And that is where, so I wish to have some kind of a very long drawn, a long strategized plan from the students community. As long as I'm here in BITS Pilani, I would be more than happy to support in whatever way it is. And whatever it has to be done from admin side, that I would be very happy to do that. And I'm glad that our acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Saha, joined and he gave the opening statement there. Now, some of the things, like, for example, it's a very simple, I'm sorry I'm taking a couple of minutes more time, but I want to share my thoughts, and that's what I said. Life is all about loving. Life is all about relationships. And relationship does not mean that you have to define with something. Relationship means about a kind of a ship in which you are actually living the life and you have a beautiful journey. And that journey should be very exciting. And that is why we said that where there is a love, there is a life. And that is what Mahatma Gandhi said. So we need to build that loving relationship among ourselves. We should know, and I don't think so there should be any question coming up in the minds of anybody and having any kind of a discrimination. Because I know still in many of the government institutions, how the categorized students have to fight for their rights. I don't want that to happen in BITS Pilani. I just want to see that the people, and we should be the people who would be making the change. And possibly people will have to learn the lessons from us. And that is where I want, and that's one where I just want to close with the one statement that it's a beautiful ghazal by Jagjit Singh, in that he says, "Dhoop mein niklo, baharon mein jaakar dekho, zindagi kya hai, kitabon ko hatakar dekho." So we need to make people to come out from the books. No standard thing. They have to come out from there. They have to open their minds. And that is where our role would be. So I'm with you for the right cause, and you can be assured that my support would be there all the time. And once again, I would like to thank Anchor and the BITSAA for the great initiative. And I'm sure this is just the kind of a beginning, but we'll make a very big impact wherever it is required. So thank you so much once again to all my panelists. Okay, and it's nice to see that my youngest son is kind of taking the lead from this point onwards, and we will do the best. We'll do the best. So once again, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Professor Barai. I think very inspirational. The long-term strategy is actually to make ourselves irrelevant. We don't need to have these conversations maybe 50 years down the line. Anybody else has any closing thoughts, or maybe we can, just wish everyone a very happy Pride Month. Does anyone else have to say anything?
I'd just like to add some closing thoughts, sort of building on that what you said. The end goal of the LGBT community is that it doesn't exist. It's not about being accepted. It's not about being tolerated. The end goal is about equality, dignity, and respect. That's all it is. It's not about special privileges. It's not about anything besides just being equal to every other person who is on campus, in the workplace, or just existing in the same society as you do.
Thank you so much, Ani. That wonderful, wonderful thought. So yeah, with that, I think we'd like to close and wish absolutely everyone, professors, parents, teachers, students, everyone, a very, very happy Pride Month. I think Pramila has a few last thoughts. Yeah, why don't you go ahead, Pramila?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Siddharth for being in the background and coordinating the whole event. Siddharth, would you mind turning on your video for a few seconds, and then we can end the call? Thank you so much. He's been coordinating for the last couple of hours in the background, making sure, Professor Arun Saha was here, Professor Barai joined at the right time and putting spotlights on us at the right time. Thank you so much, Sid.
Thank you, Pramila.
Please take care. Stay safe.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you, BITSAA. Thank you, Anchor. And we'd be happy to stay in touch with everyone.
Thank you.
And happy Pride. Yeah, happy Pride.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for the session.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the session. Happy Pride, everyone.